All right. So first off, thanks for getting up this morning. I'm Kevin Stear with Sumo Logic, formerly Jask. Ellie Soto is definitely not here to present with me. She just had a baby, so I gave her a pass on that. Credpocalypse Cometh, right? And this is a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a, like, let's raise some awareness here of what's actually happening in the sector, right? Are we on the verge of a widespread identity and trust crisis? Answer is yes, by the way. Sorry, this PDF is going to be a pain in the ass. Yes, the evidence continues to pile up around us. All right, the weight of personal living. We all feel this, right? I mean, who is the IT guru for their entire family and household right now? Raise your hand. Seriously, right? Like I walked into my parents' house yesterday, dropped my kids off. I mean, I'm using them, and my parents are literally handing me every device they have. It's like that commercial, right? I can't remember that commercial, but like the grandparents have the grandkids come over, and they just pass them a bunch of devices. None of this shit works. So my dad's that guy, right? In my family, at least. And my dad's a guy who likes to, reuse everything, sell everything. So he's selling my old, shovels and snowblowers and tools and shit on Craigslist. And he gets a Craigslist hit that says, hey, I'm really interested in this product, but I really need the one-time code that I'm going to send you. All right, so go ahead and look for your Google Gmail notifications for auth, one-time passcodes, and let me know what it says. My dad did this 4 times. 4 times. If a Craigslist dealer says they need your one-time passcodes, there should be a default answer in your head, right? Default to fuck no. All right, my neighbor Karen. My dad's awesome, by the way. My neighbor Karen, not awesome. She is the neighbor who literally once a week is knocking on my door. Oh my gosh, Kevin, this happened and this happened and this happened. Am I hacked? Which I always respond to something like, well, which internet are you using, Karen? Right? And that just throws her for a fucking loop. I mean, she's, oh. So we're moving though, so I continue to fuck with her. But we all have these evolutions, right? But they take more and more of our time every day. It might be, a simple thing, helping somebody set up Authy, right? It might be, rebuilding a machine for your kid because they, get infected every other 5 minutes, right? But who needs protecting? All of us. I mean, anyone that's in some sort of special protected category, societally speaking, these are people who can't really be responsible for their own data usage, right, and their own data protection. And that's not, all-encompassing list, but it's really sad and it's true if you think about it, right? Our kids have no data savviness, at least mine don't. But what's acceptable risk there? Should we be two-factor authing our kids' devices from the very get-go? You say that until you've had your fingerprint locked out 1 million times on the iPad, and you've got to fucking crack that thing, and it's a pain in the ass. But I agree, it's a debate that needs to happen in the community, right? Let's talk about some other scary shit, right? This is the backdrop slide. The poor man's Alexa. Who, for one, thinks all those robocalls are just silence on the other end when you answer? No one? All right, good. Fuck. Yeah, so you put all this together, right? All this way to personal living, and wait, we're sort of security people, right? The hardest thing for me is, wait, what? That's what my 9-year-old says all the time. Wait, what? When he says that, I think about all the people just obsequiously sharing their data everywhere, right? With no cause for alarm, no cause for concern, no OPSEC, period. And from my background, that's a big no-no. Okay. Yes. Yes, well said. So what should we do? Everybody look under your chair. You all have a DIY crimeware toolkit under your chair this morning. Yes! I mean, it's not hard, you guys. Look, you want to make your own crimeware campaign? You start with some data, right? Let's take some public data. Let's take some breach data even. A few combo lists floating around maybe. Some compromised credentials that you know are legit because you hacked them yourself maybe. Maybe you've got Emma email harvesting module. That would be nice. Not necessarily needed though, right? Leverage an open source data framework. Hey, I'm going to spin up H2O on my laptop and go to town on some data. Hey, I'm going to spin up AWS and lay out a cluster, EMR cluster, do XYZ. This is all commonplace stuff for us today, right? Has anyone not set up their own elk stack, securities capabilities, security onion, et cetera at home? Anyone? All right, that guy, he's honest, right? But you will. at some point, right? Hopefully. And the point is, like, the bar of entry here, the cost of doing business is much, much lower than it was previously. The data that you have at your fingertips, public data, social media data, combined with breach data, compromised creds, and all the stuff that we're leaking like a sieve outside of our personal lives every day, I mean, it's not hard to engage capabilities beyond this. But the piece that's been missing for most of our crimeware guys, most of the APT guys have been doing for years, are these target discovery and target development steps. Right? It's always been a battle of convenience for crimeware actors. What's worth my time, right? I mean, it's a profitability equation, just like any other business. Where this gets scary is where you say things like, and there's actually a First Aviation's, I think it's called Project Overlord, because the name of the BEC subject line email was just cheesy as fuck. I don't know why you'd name your BEC campaign Project Overlord, but they did. Anyways, in the ops track, there's a case study that I shared that's obfuscated. You guys all have access to that. It's TLP green, treat it as you will. But this is a really interesting case study for me because this isn't hard, right? You have the backdrop of all those pieces in play. This case study is about a very small aviation company, under 10 people, but who are their partners? Their partners were all the big dogs, right? United, Delta, American, Frontier, blah, blah, blah. And so when this 10-person company doesn't, the governance process for how we onboard these folks doesn't do its job, doesn't establish and sort of enforce the trust that we need in this relationship, this guy sends a Project Overlord email and gets clicks and opens throughout the aviation sector, right? Huge, huge problem. Where this is really interesting, though, when you think about how hard this is to do, I mean, any one of us could do this in this room right now, right? Go grab a pile of data, go grab an email list from, hey, let's take the conference to start, right? Let's find out who works at what vendors. Let's make some targeted lists of those vendors. Let's do some Google queries. Let's look at the voter databases that I have on my, let's look at let's troll for records. You put this together, get a little spear phishing campaign going, zero detection style, right? Like, there's absolutely no way that this is going to get stopped in the preponderance of cases. Now, you think about my dad or my neighbor being targeted with this, and that's a change, right? To go from organizationally targeted individuals to personally targeted individuals. That's something APT's been doing for years. But we're seeing the uptick in crimeware. We're seeing the advance in social engineering. We're seeing that the profitability of putting these pieces together is extremely, extremely lucrative. Day by day, it's increasing. More cyberer. I put that in for Gotti. Syndicates more cyber. So this is a fun story, right? A friend of mine was in Barcelona with her husband, and they were partying it up like they're wont to do. By the way, she's a security manager at a 2,000-person organization, I think, something like that. Great gal, awesome. This could happen to any one of us. She's out at a club. She's dancing, they're drinking. Some Russians come over. They're in Barcelona, so not necessarily a weird thing. They're Europeans in Europe, yes. So some Russians come over and start hanging out with them. Hour or two later, husband, wife, they both start feeling a little funny. Next thing you know, they barely escape out of this club, make it back to the street and to the hotel. But guess what? They're minus one of their phones. Holy shit. So they're feeling lucky at this point. Do the police thing, did the whole Interpol thing. Next morning, early in the morning, they get a text. I wish I had the screenshot of the text because it's so telling. The text is effectively this is Apple Authentication Center. We are trying to locate your device from here. Location with a K, by the way. Location here. Please click to retrieve your device. And of course, they're hungover. They're terrified. They just want this to be over. Click. Guess where they clicked? Apple.com. .login/auth.top. Right? Never. Things are not good when you see the .top. I think we all agree. Drug, rub, compromise. The point of that slide and that case study is to illustrate that these cyber capabilities are being onboarded in creative ways by all sorts of enterprises. It's not just going to be the traditional spear phishing campaign or Loki bot guys that we're concerned about here, right? I think what this shows us is that cyber capabilities are being looked at as a modular sort of add-on to a lot of different business opportunities, right? And that's the way it should be. But this is scary when you start thinking about how many people are susceptible and exposed to that, right? All right, let's talk a little bit about Emotet. Great example. And anyone not work Emotet? All right, we're all plagued by these bastards. All right, so Emotet, really, really powerful campaigns. Probably wastes, I don't know, 5-6 hours of my time a week. But context-aware, personalized payment or personalized attachment deliveries. Why is that important, right? Number one, context-aware should be scary to you guys, because if I get an email from my Aunt Sue that's a reply from something I sent, I'm going to, by default, trust that because, oh, this is a conversation we already had. I think most of us are in that boat. Context-aware, right? Personalized delivery. So I might get an email attachment that says, payment advice for Kevin Stear. And if that happens, like, I'm definitely opening that shit, right? It's addressed to me, come on. But that's what most people think, right? I'm not gonna click, you guys probably aren't gonna click. But my dad, clicking every fucking time. And then when my dad's email gets raided and harvested and pillaged, guess who is gonna come fish the people that are targets in my dad's life, right? The bad guys. And when that happens, I'm definitely highly susceptible to opening an email from my dad, right? We all in that same boat. So as the attack surface switches and changes up, that organizational targets aren't as much of a priority because we've already milked the profit out of those guys. Shit. And honestly, if you guys haven't noticed, I mean, our industry is, I don't know how many $1 billion, a lot, $7 million or some crap. But that being said, we're doing okay, right? As an industry, protecting corporate, organizational sort of targets, I feel like we've taken a step forward in the past 5 years. But what we're really sucking at is home and personal defense. I'll be the first to admit, I am lazy as shit at home because I'm tired of all the emails and I mean, how many TFA pop-ups can I get on my phone? For the love of God, how many times do you guys auth every day? Right? And we're great about that with work. How many times do you auth every day for your home network? Right? Interesting. So industry reigns. Yo, we got this. We know most of my customers, we've mitigated Emotet. You just see it deliver, you don't see it land, right? You see the TrickBot payload just get blown out of the water because it's shady DNS or something, right? The minute we bring Fin7 social engineering tactics against someone like my dad, right, my neighbor, they're going to fail. Right, they're all going to fold under that pressure. And we've been fighting Fin7 for a year at an industry target, and that's a challenge. Fighting it at home when your dad sends you an email. Here's a Facebook Messenger link, Kevin. Please click it. It reminds me of when you were 8. How the fuck do I not click that? Come on. And then this is the real scary part, right? Everyone's talking about the commodity crimeware stuff. Everyone's talking about Russia. But there's a lot of other topics on this page and on the APT sort of slate, right? China. Who's been working China the last year? 10. What's that? Last 10. Yeah, last 10, right? Yeah, they're kind of quiet. Yeah, that's scary. But all this shit is happening, right? NordVPN key, private key is compromised. Like, that doesn't just happen, guys. This isn't like, oh, I left the key on the counter, sorry. BGP hijacking. You don't move a BGP route through China or Iran just coincidentally. Yeah, it could happen, DDoS, right. But everybody knows that there's bigger games at play here, right? And a BGP config file, I mean, that's really not that hard a thing to change if you got access. Avast. All the supply chain attacks are driving everybody crazy, I think. But if you can't even trust the vendors that you've already vetted and gone through a governance process internally, I mean, where are we at, right? Open targeting of sovereign governments. The nice thing about that is, where's the ROE, right? Where's the release here? I mean, years ago, launching a spear phishing campaign against a sovereign embassy would be considered probably not a great thing to do. This is all day, every day in Eastern Europe, right? I mean, craziness. Crimeware revenue linked to state operations. That's the missing link for me, right? I mean, to see Lil Kim or Putin getting a little trickle from, some mouse spam campaign, it's definitely happening, right? I'm reminiscent of Eastern Europe, or Eastern Ukraine, rather, right? perfect operational relay. Destabilize a region, move in all your bad crimeware actors, no law. Hey, works for them. Yeah, the Russia part's one of the scarier ones and one of the ones right in our face for sure, right? Destabilization is just part of their plan. So with all the data that's out there, everything's exposed. I mean, all the incentivization, Nord Stream 2, that's a big fucking deal if you guys aren't aware of that. The liquefied natural gas wars that are happening in Europe right now, big problem, right? Go figure, anybody work ICS? If you work ICS, you may know about some of the pipeline attacks. Yeah, that's some scary stuff. You start thinking about power grids and pipelines and critical infrastructure. Nord Stream 2 is a tipping point, right? Iran, tipping point. Syria, tipping point. And we're all extremely exposed data-wise out there. So you get a real target incentivized to go after us, we're going to be in trouble. So what should you expect? Well, you are going to have jobs for a little while if you want them. That's the good news. But I thought this quote from Tom Burt was pretty powerful. Right? Microsoft doesn't come out of the box and say some things that that change I think change the way that I feel about the attacker mindset very often. However, to see this quote, while the attacks we're disclosing today were not technically sophisticated, they attempted to use a significant amount of personal information both to identify the accounts belonging to their targets and, wait for it, pivot, target development, target discovery, in a few cases to attempt attacks. Right? Like anyone that's worked, some sort of targeting mission in the past, you've got to not just have the data, but you've got to use that target discovery and target development capability. Like I said, maybe it's an elk stack sitting behind Emitet's email harvesting module. Maybe it's just a guy with a fat laptop and he's scripting stuff all day. Who knows? Access to the data is step one. The ability to interrogate it, build context, right? Target decks becoming more personal, less organizationally focused because the cost of doing business is dropping, right? The ability for them to target, any one of us for under $1,000 is probably a real thing today, right? Supply chain attacks. I mean, the new norm. You guys know this, right? The real bitch about supply chain attacks is they're silent, right? See cleaner, right? Baby Credpocalypse is already upon us. Right, this is stuff that keeps me up at night. Like, we are the fucking soft target people. Us. And when you've got hundreds of billions of compromised identity records out there. Anyone from Blue Cross Blue Shield here? All right, the Blue Intel guys know all about this, right? Like, any one of those Blue Intel guys with access, any one of these repo collectors that we're all, famous for, if we weaponize what we have, like, bad things could happen, and you'll get paid. You might go to jail, but just don't do it in Turkey. That'd be bad. Baby Credpocalypse is here. The data's out there. We're exposed. TFA is under assault like nothing before, right? We hear these things. Google, O365, all these common accesses. Is anyone not dealing with brute forcing at all their common access points? It's a scary picture we're painting here, right? The biggest thing I can say, though, to leave you with is the new norm is we're all being collected upon all the time. I don't care if it's your phone number at the gas pump, or your credit card at the bar last night, or the hotel, or your social media posts. Adversaries have the power to pull all that together at an unprecedented and inexpensive means and capability today. And that's something that we all need to be aware of. So, going back in time, let's just revisit. It's coming, people. That's it. Questions? Discussion? Hey, it's 9 o'clock. Come on. All right. Well, thanks for your attention. Question, shoot.
Beyond just the bulk collection of identity records, there's an entire class of enterprise that have to operate with open meeting records requirements. And so, again, the economic barriers to building the targeted lures, the targeted phishing campaigns that don't rely on tricks like replies from your mom or whatever that can get even more sophisticated into, whaling and whatnot. You can, learn somebody's day job over the course of a year and who they're talking to internally and externally and about what, just by looking for open meeting records requirements. There was a retirement system compromise, an attempted wire transfer that got shut down, thankfully, by their fiduciary. And You would think, well, how did they know what to do? How did they know where the banks are? Oh, by the way, here are the meeting minutes where they discussed who was going to be their fiduciary bank, and here's the contact, and
Fraud is a great angle that's going to benefit from all of this data being out there, because sometimes it's legit, it's advertising, it's marketing. Other times,
and
twisted a little.
as like the
Yeah.
and as the NLP gets better for entity recognition and things like that, it becomes easier to sort through a pile of minutes across an entire sector, as long as they have their meeting minutes out in the open.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
So school districts and anybody else who have to produce open meeting records.
it's scary, right? Local government is a perfect example of that. And we've actually seen an uptick in, I don't want to, I need to obfuscate my customers. We've seen an uptick in local government, municipal activities specifically, because it's just easy, like you point out. The data's there, put it together, a couple folks with a bad plan trying to make some money and engage.
Even without filing FOIAs and things like that, you can learn the entire internal operations of somebody just by reading meeting minutes. Go figure.
By caring, by looking at what they do.
Yes.
It's not that creepy, come on. All right, good question. Anybody else? All right, cool. Thanks.